Escape Room is a movie that you wrote. Is that right? Did you also direct it?
I did. I had written several spec screenplays that were very ambitious, very my Hereditary or my Babadook, my Let the Right One In, something bold and different and atmospheric and so on. And a lot of my specs would get optioned, but not financed. It always scared the financiers. They want something you can pitch in one line, something that can easily be marketed in one genre, maybe two. So I said, okay, well, I'm getting older here. I need to write something for the first time in my life. I need to write something for them, something that they're looking for, something with all the bullet points, or all the marketing, keys. I said, so my game will be, what can I write for them that I'm still proud of? Something that walks the line. That's something for them and something for me also. So they like something that's got a strong hook, that's high concept, that can be produced easily, all these things. So I had been to an escape room and saw that it was kind of blowing up and getting more and more popular. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to form a story around that. Long story short, I found an angle that I wanted to tell that story. I wrote it very quickly, sold it very quickly. First script I ever sold that got financed immediately because it hit all their points. And I went, maybe there's something to learn from this. It was off to the races once they financed it. It moved very quickly. But my game since then has been to balance writing, I'll say for them, but writing what's really marketable versus maybe some other types of stories that I really want to tell also. I try to oscillate and kind of go between them a little bit without going too far into any. It's a fine dance that I'm still learning and will continue to learn a little bit more. But it's interesting because there's a lot of super talented writers I've seen out there who've never had a single script financed, even optioned, because they have written these bold screenplays that, isn't a great fit for, say, a broad audience or just a very key demographic that can be sold to investors. Investors like safe bets like anybody else. So, God bless them. I hope they get financed because some of these scripts are fantastic scripts. But if you are a new script writer and you are looking to be like, gosh, I'd do anything to get optioned that one time. Let me get optioned. It is something worth considering. Keep fighting the good fight. But, if you're going to be in the business of filmmaking, there is a business aspect to it. And that includes marketable material. What's currently trending. Right now it's, female-driven grounded thrillers or IP content, whatever it is. But keep your finger on the pulse. And at times, give them what they want, but inject enough of yourself into it that it's something you can be really proud of.
So what was the process like once you finished writing Escape Room? How are you knowing where to send it out? I mean, that's really fascinating. So you go to this escape room, you go, oh, okay, this is cool. I've been to one and it's really neat. It's kind of cool too. You're with strangers, like trying to figure something out, and there's just a lot of fun to it. But you go, okay, so I've got to hit on these beats. Great. Okay, so you finish it. Probably had maybe one or two people look at it. I don't know. I'm just assuming.
I may have had my younger sister Aubrey read it.
Okay.
But not many. What some people will do, and listen, I haven't done everything the way some real professional other screenwriters would do. Some guys, there's certain routes you might go where you take it to prestigious breakdown services and they cover it. And they go, this is amazing, or this is great, but you really need to fix X, Y, and Z. There's a number of things you can do that are legitimate ways to get it properly prepared. Early on, I just never did that. I never did that. I certainly not with Escape Room. I have with some of my scripts since then, and it's been actually pretty invaluable in getting them optioned. But with Escape Room, I just wrote it. For as simple as it was, I was like, I don't need to take the time or the money to get someone professional to cover it. I know what it is. I wrote it for the people. I know what they want. This is enough. This is what it is. And it turned out it was. In terms of how I got it out for people to see, there's different routes I've learned along the way. For many years, I literally put scripts out on, Craigslist, online, free sites. Craigslist, which might waste your time 99% of the time.
In what section?
Screenwriters, I believe,
okay.
Or writers. They've changed since that one got done. Now it's a paid site, and they've adjusted some of the rules a little bit. So I don't know if you can do it anymore, but and I went on Craigslist to hire a crew. I used it for years. But
Oh, sure.
anyways, I had put scripts out there for years, nothing. But the right guy saw it on the right day.
On Craigslist.
On Craigslist.
Wow.
And said, let's hop on the phone. And we hopped on the phone. Conversation went well. Met in person. Conversation went well. Sold it.
Do you still have the post? Did you do like a screenshot of it?
No, I don't have the
Oh,
post.
sure.
I'm still in touch with the guy all the time. And other guys, I have another picture that's coming together now. I can't divulge details. They're keeping it all under wraps, but I'm hoping it's my game changer. It's going at an A-list level, far bigger budget than anything I've ever done. The seedling of that deal began through, I think, LinkedIn. Some guy, the right guy on the right day, saw a post of mine or saw my page and went, hey, you got anything? And I said, sure. And I pitched him a bunch of concepts. He picked one or two of them or whatever. I sent it to him. He goes, okay, this is cool. Let me read this script. And usually they'll say that and you'll hear from them never again. Or 6 weeks down the road, he called me 2 hours later and said, I want it. I know exactly who I'm taking it to. And it was off to the races. So these sites that don't cost any money, that's another thing I picked up through my years is it takes a lot of time, but get yourself out there. Craigslist, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, build yourself a brand and network. My first several years making short films, I was so busy making films, I never networked, never marketed the films. Barely ever. I made posters, but I didn't do a whole lot with them. I've changed my ways since then. I've definitely focused. Certainly when I was ready to jump into the feature world, I started reaching out to anyone and everyone I could that I knew was a mover and a shaker, or someone who could make a big difference in my career. And you reach out to them for an introduction, and you will get rejected or no answer 1,000 times. But all you need is that one. If you can get one person to get you back and you can pitch your ideas to them, you might just catch them on that day. And that has worked for me again and again and again. Now it's buried within years of not hearing anything, but that's where it was. I didn't have CAA representing me. I didn't have Zero Gravity or some of these big management companies. I just had me. And most filmmakers who are working their way up just have themselves. So you have to put yourself out there. You got to put your material out there. And with my screenplays, I started putting them into all the most prestigious screenwriting contests I could find. Only the most prestigious, because that's really the only ones that agencies and people are looking out for. And if you finish in the top 3 or the top 5, nothing below that usually, but the top 3 or top 5, you'll get a call from these people. So anyways, you can there's a number of ways to get your scripts out there to producers or whatever. Just got to find it.
When you were driving to meet this person from this Craigslist post, what's going through your mind?
I wasn't nervous. I wasn't excited. I've been in the business long enough to be very even keel. Whether I get news that would be considered a blow or whether it's news that would be considered life-changing, I always take it even keel because, anything can happen in this town. And usually if it's really good, it comes down to earth a little bit. And if it's really bad, it's not ever that bad. So when I was on the way to meet this guy, I'd had so many meetings with past producers on different projects. And I'd had so many of my scripts optioned that it just wasn't a big deal to me. I went there prepared for however it might go. He liked the script. I'll have a meeting with him, see if he's a nice guy. He'll say yes, he'll say no, I'll move on to the next one. You do it enough time over so many years, it kind of ceases to affect you. It ceases to affect me as much. And I think part of that is a defense mechanism, because if you're living and dying by the rejection or the success of each project, that's a hard way to live life. Because in the film business, you're going to be rejected for years. I don't care how famous you are. And you'll have some successes too. Enjoy them, grieve the losses that you have. But you got to kind of, keep your head on your shoulders.
So then once you realized that this person was legit and they really did want to option your script, what were the steps? They drew up a contract and they presented it to you?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. With this particular producer, it was less formal than most. With many deals I've done since then, you've got legal teams involved, very comprehensive contracts. There's various protocols and steps that they take. With this guy, fun-loving guy, nicest guy. He's like, okay, I'll type up something. You want to do it? I want to do it. Here's your signature. Here's my signature. That's good enough. We'll move on. And it was a short form agreement is basically what it was. And the longer form agreement came later on once the production company had technically optioned / purchased the script, more contracts were signed. But at first, it was very informal. And a lot of these, I've learned, a lot of these producers and filmmakers who kind of live within this $1 million and under budget world, it tends to be very informal. Sometimes a little bit more than I would like. I would like to kind of cover the bases a little bit more. But by and large, you're not talking about millions and millions of dollars. These are people who just want to make a movie. And many times in the past, that was me. So I said, okay, fine, this is fine. If I get screwed on this, I'm not going to get screwed by much. And I get a movie under the belt. So, but I, to my recollection, it was a very simple agreement based largely on in good faith, we do this and we promise to do this and we'll talk later. And I don't recall the exact amount of days anymore, but it just, compared to my past experiences where it's like I'll option it for a year, you hear nothing for a year. Just nothing ever really happens. This was just like, I've got this guy I know, we'll give it to him. He knows these guys who are looking for this material. They're kind of a startup and they're really doing a lot of pictures right now. It went to them. I had one meeting with them. I mean, the money was there within days.
Wow.
And it was jumping straight into pre-production. It was a very, very fast production. So it was, head spinningly fast. But, all those new experiences are always good experiences to me. I've found that in all, especially in the feature world, as you encounter different people and different deals, and each feature is always a different organism unto itself, both in terms of the personnel and the contracts and all the variables involved, that both the good and bad experiences are beneficial to you because you learn from both of them. So it was an interesting process.
So with the bad, are there certain red flags that when you, let's say, go to a meeting with someone and you keep it even keel and you're driving there and you're like, okay, it could happen, maybe not.
Yes.
But then somebody says something,
Yes.
something happens, and you go, bam, this is
Yes.
a no-go. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm certainly not special. A lot of filmmakers have been around for a long time, but I've been doing this long enough time that I have a good instinct for all that stuff. The red flags are usually very obvious and very fast and very early on. So you have a decision at that point to make. Is it worth it, some of these flags, to continue onward or not? And as I've built my currency and my leverage and the kind of people I want to work with and the kind of projects I want to do, more and more and more, I will avoid working with those types of people or getting involved in certain types of productions. And years ago, I may not have done it, but certainly in the last couple of years, I've turned down several projects. I've turned down offers to write movies, feature movies. I've turned down directing jobs. I've turned down option agreements because I went, you know what? I spotted the red flags. I want no part of it.
Sorry, what are some of the red, maybe just a handful, like what?
It's hard to really get into it. Some of them are so specific, I'd rather not go
Yeah,
there. But
no, please, we don't want any.
Some of them,
general.
Some of them could be as simple as personality, the type of people you want to work with, how grueling it's going to make the experience. I think for me, when I want to get involved in a feature production, which is kind of like going to war, you're getting deeply involved in this stuff. Being on set's a pressure cooker. Time and money is on the line all the time. I want to work with people that I have a positive synergy with. We all have a singular vision of what we want this film or that project to be. This isn't to say that you have to get along with everybody, but there are certain personality types and certain procedures I've seen put in place that, just make things harder than they need to be. Some of it's crossed into legal issues. Some of it is just simply, I just don't want to work for a bully. The issues can be large or small, but whatever it is, it's something that you can only attain through experience. You start to just pick up on it like anything else in life. You just get a gut reaction. And again, most of these guys and most of these deals, the flags are are numerous, obvious, and demonstrated early. You pick on it early, like first meeting. Usually you'll know, okay, I see some things here and now I have my decision to make. Do I grind through? Do I make it work? Or do I detour off to the left and take the next project? But for everyone watching, I mean, they will, as they start to get into more and more deals, especially feature deals, you'll pick it up. I mean, most of it's in plain sight.
Well, aside from someone maybe being a social bully or just an abrasive personality or whatever, are there other things like, hey, how about it's a handshake?
Sure.
And they don't want to put anything in an email. They only want to call you.
Yeah.
They don't want anything in writing. Like, I'm putting words in your mouth. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. Sure, having people who are working with a team you trust is important. Working with a team that you're comfortable with and you're cohesive with. It's difficult to be on a production. Some filmmakers might sign on to a feature deal because I just want to get a feature made. And they sign on with a team that maybe wasn't the best fit for their script. They have a different vision than you. Now you're like this the whole production. And usually at the end you get a picture that's muddied. There is no singular vision. Now it's a mash of both. So you should always know who you're going into business with. Get a feel for them. That's what those meetings are for. Figure out who you're comfortable with and who you're not comfortable with. A lot of the time it's also not the kind of flags that are raised once you're deep into production. It's like the first call or two. For instance, you'd ask for examples. For me, very quickly now, I'll know a producer who's going to waste my time for 6 months and never get anything done. Mind you, a lot of these guys are totally decent people. Not a malicious bone in their body, but I know enough now that when I hear certain things or I see the way they do certain things or what their plan is or lack thereof for their production in terms of getting financing or putting together a pitch deck or where they're going to do their business, so on and so forth, I know this person's never going to get this picture made. They'll try, but they're never going to get it made. And again, it's hard to explain how you pick that up. It's fairly basic stuff, but for me, I just kind of figured it out a long time ago. So I try to work with people where I go, this guy is serious business. He knows what he's doing. I've heard his plan. It's sound. This is a man with experience or a woman. This is someone who they're saying all the right things. I know exactly what they're talking about. I visualize what their business proposal is. They do everything legit. None of it's lazy or incomplete or rushed. Simple little things like that. But I try my best to work with people who I'm confident have the ability to actually get my scripts made. Otherwise, I won't do this. Otherwise, I'll turn down the offer, I guess, if you will. And that's the most important step. The second, of course, is sure, I'd love them to be people that we have a good synergy together. Sure. We can talk about the project and move forward in a way that's not only healthy for the relationship and leads to more features down the line, more collaborations, but also is in the best interest of the script itself. Because you never want to sign on to one of these things and see this script that you bled for to kind of create and bring it to life kind of turn into this kind of haphazard completed project that you're just like, I don't even want my friends to see it. Like, I don't want anyone to see it. I luckily haven't had anything that severe, but I can see how it can get there very quickly if you're not careful. So I guess the lesson would be, especially early on, yes, you need to get a feature under your belt. And sometimes you might have to sacrifice a little bit to get it done, but don't throw all your eggs in one basket just to get your project made. Make sure it's made with the right people. Find the right people that you're comfortable with, and go for that. It's perfectly fine to pass on a few potential parties and find the right fit.